UFC 322 goes down this Saturday, and let's get to what I always start out these videos with. Is it worth $80? In this rare instance, I'll actually say probably. I mean, it is the Madison Square Garden card, and the UFC always tries to stack the MSG card along with International Fight Week in the summer. So this is one of the two big cards that they shoot for, and they load it up, and this one's no different. So while I rarely do think that cards are actually worth $80, and Lord only knows the last one certainly was not, even because sometimes these cards, they don't look like they're worth $80, but then the product ends up being really good. Last card was neither. This card you hope will end up being that. We'll start out with the first fight of the night. You've got Beneil Dariush going up against Benoit Saint Denis. Saint Denis is riding a 2-fight win streak, but it's a little padded because the one fight was against the late fill-in, and Benoit Saint Denis needed a win, and that's exactly what it was a get-right fight. But yeah, he followed that up with a really, really good win against Mauricio Rufy, one of the fighting nerds, the hottest gym in MMA, the guys that looked like they were invincible until they ran into stiffer competition as of late. But on the flip side, you've got Beneil Dariush, who ends up coming in, and he's really only lost to the best of the best in this division. He's lost to Arman, he's lost to Charles, and that's it. He ended up coming back and getting a big win against Renato Moicano, a guy that ended up putting Benoit Saint Denis to the woodshed. I think Benoit Saint Denis is a really good fighter. I think he was rushed a little bit, and we saw that in the fight against Dustin, in the fight against Moicano, and I think this is another chance for him to get into contention for the title, because at one point he looked like an absolute world beater. Unfortunately, I think Beneil Dariush has been there and done that, and I think he's too veteran laden. He's seen guys like Benoit Saint Denis, and I think he's going to eke out a decision victory in this. Look, I mean, Benoit Saint Denis did improve, and I was impressed with the Mauricio Rufy fight. I didn't think he would end up winning that fight, but he did, and he proved that it wasn't necessarily a fluke, his hot start. He might have just run into stiff competition. I mean, Dustin Poirier is one of the best to ever fight in lightweight, but Beneil Dariush looked like for a long time he was poised to get a title shot. He was the next guy in line. And, bad luck happened, a loss here, a loss there. And this is another fight where these two guys can possibly get back into possible, with a good performance, number one contendership. I personally like Beneil Dariush, and that is just based on level of competition and experience in the cage. But would it shock me if Benoit Saint Denis came out and showed another level to his game? No, because he hasn't been fighting for all that long. So every time you see him, and I hate to quote Joe Rogan on this, because anytime there's a young fighter, Joe Rogan lives to tell you, he's just getting better. But in this situation, he might just be getting better. He might be leveling up. And it's not like, Beneil Dariush is getting younger, albeit the guy does look like he's 45 years old. He's not. He's a really good fighter. I like Beneil Dariush in this one, so I will take him. That's not a confident pick, but I'll take Beneil Dariush. All right, next up with the main card, you have Leon Edwards taking on Carlos Prates. And this is another fighting nerd, a guy who was one of those people I talked about, looked like a world beater with this gym, the Fighting Nerds, until he ran into Ian Machado Gary. And Ian Machado Gary exposed Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates has dynamite in his hands. I mean, he will put you to sleep, and he has done it time and time again. I mean, I remember the Neil Magny fight where it's like, I had bet Neil Magny just get out of the first round, and Carlos Prates was not having that. But this is also a guy that loves to smoke cigarettes in, the post-fight interviews. I mean, I just question the seriousness, I guess, of his dedication to the sport. I don't know. There's something that rubs me the wrong way of the guy that's knocking everybody out in round one, then he's expected, and then he follows it up with smoking heaters, having to go in there against a stiff competition, against Leon Edwards, a former champion, a guy who's used to going 5 rounds. I don't like that matchup for Carlos Prates. With that said, Leon Edwards needs a win. He had a flat performance against the former champion Belal Muhammad. And I think everybody chalked it up to like, look, it might just have been that. Everybody has a bad day at the office. That might have been Leon's. But then he follows it up with a really, really bad performance against Sean Brady, which he ended up getting tapped out in the fourth round. He looked like he was never in that fight. And you just start to wonder, have the best days of Leon Edwards passed him by? It's not like he's all that young, and Carlos Prates is younger. So you just wonder, is he still in love with it? With all of that said, I think anytime Carlos Prates ends up going into the deeper waters, and by deeper waters, I mean, I don't know, halfway through a fight, he looks a little bit gassed. Whereas Leon Edwards, as I said, he's been there, done that. It's kind of like the first fight. I'm taking the fight experience for this one. I'm taking Leon Edwards. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting fight in the world. And I could definitely see Carlos Prates putting it on Leon Edwards in the first round, but then the experience pulls Leon away in rounds 2 and 3, and he wins a decision in this one. So it's kind of like that. I said the first fight. Like, would I be surprised if Carlos Prates wins? No, this is not going to be one of my locks of the night. But I'm going to go with the experience, and I'm going to go with the guy that has he's probably welcoming, honestly, a 3-round fight as opposed to the 5-round fights that he's fighting. Keep in mind, though, because he's been fighting 5 rounds, will the urgency be there? I think it will. I think he knows he needs to get into the win column again in order to get back into title contention, because you don't want to be riding a 3-fight losing streak. It's understandable to lose the belt to Belal Muhammad. It's understandable to lose to Sean Brady because he's one of the best welterweights in the world. Yeah, that's not going to look good if you lose to Carlos Prates, because at that point I think your chances of getting back to a title shot are cooked. So I'll take Leon Edwards in this one. Not a barn burner, but I like him. Next fight on the card, we have Sean Brady, the guy we just talked about, going up against Michael Morales, who is 18-0. And you got to figure this is, in fact, a number 1 contender shot. Now, Michael Morales has slowly made his way through the UFC welterweight division. Max Griffin, Jake Matthews, Neil Magny, the ultimate gatekeeper to prove whether or not you're a contender or you're a fraud. And then Gilbert Burns. When you knock out Gilbert Burns, and not only do you knock him out, but you knock him out in round 1, that is seriously, seriously impressive. Whereas Sean Brady has only lost 1 fight in his UFC career, and that was to a former champion of Belal Muhammad. Unfortunately for Sean Brady, it was like the only fight where Belal Muhammad actually finished somebody, so he's got that on his resume. But ever since then, Sean Brady has been on the warpath, and I'll just look it up real quick. Sorry about that. Kevin Gastelum finished him. Gilbert Burns, unanimous decision, and then Leon Edwards. So he finishes a former champion, a former title challenger in Gilbert Burns, and then he ends up going the distance. Michael Morales is the hot name. Sean Brady's stand-up has gotten better, but reality is we all know what his game is, and it's wrestling, and it's wrestling mixed with a very impressive gas tank, and that is Sean Brady's complete game in this one. As I go back to the page, sorry about that. Hit thumbs down for that. I was not prepared. It's like 2 a.m. I got back from a hockey game late, and I was like, shit, I got to do this video. So I was not prepared. Hit thumbs down for that. But I think the game plan is very simple. You don't want to stand and trade with Michael Morales. Michael Morales will put you to sleep. He has done it. And to do it, once again, to do it to Gilbert Burns in round 1 is wild. You know, that's the guy that puts people's lights out, not gets his lights put out. So I think Sean Brady's game plan with this one is simple. He's going to clinch. He's going to wrestle. He's going to out-tire you. He's going to wear on you, and he's going to use his gas tank, and he's going to end up getting a decision victory. And with that, he will firmly be cemented as the next guy to get a title shot at welterweight. Selfishly, I hope this happens because, you know, I'm a Philly guy, and Sean Brady's from Philly. But I think the Belal Muhammad fight was a little bit of a wake-up call. What I'm worried about in this one is ego gets in the way, pride gets in the way. You know a guy has been knocking everybody out. I just hope he doesn't sit there and stand with him and trade with him. I hope he sticks to his game plan, and I think he will. I think he'll be a disciplined fighter. If there's one thing about Philly fighters, I feel like they're disciplined. They just suck on a mic. I wish to God these fight, all of them, respectfully. Sean Brady, Joe Pyfer, Pat Sabatini, Dawkins. all of them are just brutal on a mic when they win. They need to like go to school for it to learn how to trash talk and not be so humble. But with that, the trade-off is they usually stick to their game plan. They usually don't get too in their head and think, okay, I got to prove something here. No, they just go about their business and get the win. So, I think Sean Brady takes this one. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I like Brady in this one. All right, next up on the card, we have the co-main event of the night. Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili. This is supposed to be the super fight. Now, I just keep going back to, like, just give me the super fight at women that I want, which is Amanda versus Valentina. The fight that we got once, and I needed it 5 rounds. The 2 best women to ever step foot in the octagon are Valentina and Amanda. Give me that. Nothing against Zhang Weili. She's fine. But, you know, and she's going up in weight to take this fight. To me, though, it's just not the fight I want, and they're going to hype it up. Until I see it from Valentina, I'm picking Valentina. And by it, I mean, until I see her get completely outclassed, I get it. You know, she ran into Alexa Grasso, and she made a mistake, and she got her neck wrapped up. And you know what she did? She did exactly what Amanda did when she lost her belt. She went out there the next fight and whooped her ass. And proved, yeah, that was a fluke. Because she can. I mean, there's 2 women I've ever seen in my life take a fight the distance just because they wanted to go the distance. That is batshit insane. They're like, yeah, I got bored of like finishing people in round 1 and 2. I just wanted to prove that I could, you know, go 5 rounds. So I toyed with this opponent. I toyed with Felicia Spencer for 5 rounds. I just felt like it. Wildness. And that's why I'm taking Valentina in this one. It's not like Zhang Weili isn't a very formidable opponent. She is one of the best. I just think Valentina is the best. And until I see Amanda come back, I think the queen of women's MMA is Valentina Shevchenko. I don't think that changes. I think it stays Valentina Shevchenko. All right, let's move on to the main event of the night. Jack Della Maddalena taking on Islam Makhachev, another super fight that I don't really want. You know, and it's funny because anytime I hear, and I might do a separate video of this, anytime I hear like Dana White gets so upset about like the statements UFC has a superstar problem, I think about fights like this. The UFC encouraging Islam to move up in weight to take a quote-unquote super fight against JDM that, again, I don't think many people are begging for. Okay, I'll give you that. Like, Islam is the best light heavyweight in the world, and he absolutely would take out a lot of guys. I don't see anybody at light heavyweight that would give him much of a fight. Most of the time, guys are going up or down 10 pounds. He's going up 15 pounds. I think he's going to be completely undersized, and what's impressive to me was JDM's approach against Bilal Muhammad, who has a very wrestling-heavy game plan, and he was able to stuff a lot of his takedowns. And that's Bilal Muhammad, who usually fights at 170, not 155. I just think that JDM's going to be too big, and he is going to, I don't want to say big brother him, because I do think that Islam is going to be able to take a round or 2. But I think at the end of the day, I think he's just too big. I think the size difference is going to show in this one, and I think it's going to benefit JDM. If JDM didn't have any takedown defense, okay, I might be able to give it Islam Makhachev in this one. But I think this is kind of a forced super fight. I think after this, you're going to see Islam go back down, reclaim his belt that he never lost. He just gave it up. And, you know, JDM goes about his business actually fighting guys at 170 that aren't, you know, smaller people than him, and, you know, fighting the Sean Bradys of the world. So that's what I got. Let's go through it real quick again. I have Beneil Dariush, Leon Edwards, Sean Brady, Valentina, and JDM. As I said, this card is really, really good. That is the main event. That's the main card. That's the $80 card. But the entire card is really stacked. I mean, the main prelim is Bo Nickel coming back. I can't believe it. He made it back less than a year after losing. I am shocked. But he's in a get right situation in this one. And by the way, thank God the UFC took him off the main card. Thank God. I am Bo Nickeled out. I am sick of hearing Bo Nickel, seeing Bo Nickel. I am praying to God that Bo Nickel loses this one. I don't think he will. Rodolfo Vieira is his opponent. I think Bo Nickel is going to get right in this one. I think he gets back in the win column, but I still don't think that he is a premier guy in the division. He talks a big game. He talks about becoming the champion and moving up and defending the belts and blah, 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 blah. The guy fights once every 6-7 months. I think we saw what happened in the last fight when, he fought a true contender in the division. A contender, by the way, that ironically in his last fight, he quit. I think Bo Nickel got fraud checked. I don't think it was a mistake. I don't think it was an accident. I think he quit out there. He got humbled. Probably hasn't learned from it. In this instance, though, I do think he gets right. I do think he wins. And then we won't see him again for 7 months. No matter how quick it is. That's the most annoying thing about Bo Nickel. He's insufferable. And I have no I have no problem telling you I can't stand him at this point. But I think he wins. A lot of Philly guys on the card, by the way. Pat Sabatini, Kyle Dawkins are also on the card. But let's go through them real quick. As I clearly am cheating. Roman Coppola versus G-Rod, Greg Rodriguez. Love Greg Rodriguez. Love him. Any guy that literally has a hole in his head where you see tendons and he still is able to finish a fight, it's hard for me to pick against that guy. Roman Coppola is really good, but I'd take G-Rod any day. Then you've got Aaron Blanchfield coming against Tracy Cortez. I'll take Blanchfield. I think she's a future contender, but she's just young. But I will take Aaron Blanchfield in that one. Malcolm Wellmaker making his return. I mean, if you want to lock what Malcolm Wellmaker by knockout. I mean, this guy's been knocking everybody out, and I think that the value there will probably be a total guess like minus 145. But I think you'll be able to make money on it before it gets to the point where you're not going to be able to. But he's just been murking everybody. So Malcolm Wellmaker, there's a lock of the night. Gerald Meerschaert taking on Kyle Dawkins. I really like Kyle Dawkins, and his last fight was really impressive. I mean, this is a guy that locks everybody up via Darce, goes out there and starches his opponent late, and he was a late add to that card. Now he gets a real big test, though, in JM3. Gerald Meerschaert has been there, done that, fought the best of the best. He's kind of the quasi Neil Magny-ish, like one of those like gatekeepers to kind of prove if you're a fraud or not. I just need to see more from Kyle Dawkins. So until I see more of him at this level to see what's happened since he got released the first time, he got released, went back to CFFC. He's only come up for one fight. It was a very quick finish. I just simply need to see more before I start picking him against a Gerald Meerschaert. And I only am picking based on experience. I would love to see Kyle Dawkins go out there and murk Gerald Meerschaert. But Gerald Meerschaert's game is really good on the ground, and that's kind of Kyle Dawkins' game. So then it becomes a stand-up fight. If it becomes a stand-up fight, maybe it does benefit Dawkins because, him and his brother did train together, and his brother had definitely had hands. We'll see. I lean towards Gerald Meerschaert, but I don't feel good about that one. Angela Hill fights, as I said, Pat Sabatini's on this card, which always love Pat Sabatini. Another Philly guy who I think doesn't get enough credit, but I'll take Pat Sabatini. Yeah, look, really good card. Definitely worth $80. Hopefully, Now's the part of the video where I actually got to subscribe to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. That's cool. You can think that sucks. I do need subscribers though, so if you could subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to go. I got Cheesecake Factory, so I'm gonna go eat cheesecake. They're small now, by the way. I don't like that at all. All right, I'm gonna go.